Today, police released a video of the arrest of Ryan Wesley Ruth. He is the suspect who they believe pointed a rifle through a fence where former President Donald Trump was playing golf on Sunday. About 45 minutes after Ruth allegedly fled that West Palm Beach golf club, he was arrested on the side of a highway.
Driver! Walk straight back! Keep walking!
This morning, Ruth was indicted and charged with 2 federal gun-related crimes. More charges could follow as this investigation continues. Reporters here at the Post are still working to unpack what actually happened Sunday at the Trump International Golf Club. Is this being considered an assassination attempt?
The FBI is investigating it as a potential assassination attempt. They use the word apparent, what appears to be another assassination attempt.
Isaac Arnsdorf covers the Trump campaign for the Post. This is now the second time he's reporting on a potential attempt on Trump's life. Isaac was actually at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania back in July when Trump got shot. The shooter at that rally was killed by Secret Service. And now, once again, Isaac is asking the question, what motivated this alleged gunman?
One of the differences we're seeing here already is that the gunman is alive. He's going to be prosecuted. He might have an opportunity to explain himself. And even without that, he has a very extensive social media presence. He left behind a very big paper trail, which is now being picked over for clues about him.
From the newsroom of The Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Martine Powers. It's Monday, September 16th. Today, Isaac explains what we know about yet another potential attempt on Trump's life, how Secret Service handled it, what we've learned about the alleged gunman, and what this latest threat of political violence could mean for the presidential campaign. So, Isaac, can you take us through, beat by beat, what happened on Sunday?
Yeah, so Trump was campaigning last week. He gets back to Florida Saturday night. And on most days that he's in Florida, he likes to golf. So he lives at Mar-a-Lago, which people are familiar with. And there's a Trump International Golf Club on the other side of the bay in West Palm Beach. So he goes there with a friend, Steve Witkoff, and a few others. And the procedure when he's a former president and candidate rather than the president, they don't shut down the whole course. The Secret Service establishes a bubble around him, and the size of the bubble depends on the threat level and the resources, but it's different for a sitting president than a former president. And so the way they're doing it is the bubble is smaller than the complete course. There's basically an agent or two who move a hole or two ahead of him to make sure that it's secure. And between hole 5 and 8, this agent ahead of Trump noticed a rifle muzzle poking through the chain link fence in the trees on the boundary of the course.
Wow. And then what happened after they noticed that?
The agent opens fire, and Trump, a few holes back, they hear the gunshots, and the agents tell them to get down, take cover, and they rush them to safety in a holding room. The guy with the rifle gets into a car and flees. And a witness sees the car, photographs the license plate, calls the police, and so the police are able to track down the car on the highway and intercept him about 45 miles north in the neighboring county.
Wow. I mean, it's an incredible series of events. Going back to the moment when the Secret Service sees this gunman with the muzzle of this gun pointing through the chain link fence, how far away was that gunman from Trump at that point?
The sheriff estimated between 300 and 500 yards.
And, is that close? I mean, I'm trying to imagine, was he in a position to potentially shoot Trump at that point?
Well, it's a little bit farther than the gunman in Butler, Pennsylvania, but it's the sheriff in Palm Beach County briefing reporters on Sunday acknowledged that that is within range for the rifle that they recovered.
Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
Do we know what kind of rifle it was?
From our current understanding, it is a semi-automatic assault rifle.
And what do we know about how the suspect was able to get this close to Trump and was able to get on the property of this golf course?
I mean, it's right next to a public road, and the procedure up till now has not been for the bubble to extend to the entire course.
Isaac, you were describing that the suspect, he fled the scene after the Secret Service started shooting at him. But I understand that he left some items behind. What were those items, and have they told anything of significance to investigators about, like, what should we make of that?
Well, the police released a photo, so you can see there's the chain link fence around the course. There's the rifle leaning on it, and then he's got 2 bags attached to the fence and also a camera pointed into the golf course, which the sheriff said looked like he was planning to record whatever was going to happen. And we learned from the criminal charges that were filed up today that the FBI says the suspect's phone was at the golf course for almost 12 hours before he was spotted by Secret Service.
So when you look at what happened, the fact that this gunman did not get off any shots and that Trump came out of this safely, I mean, is this a success for the Secret Service, or was this a failure?
Well, the sheriff praised the Secret Service, said they did exactly what they were supposed to do.
The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel, stick it out of the fence, and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
The preliminary response from Trump and his campaign has been to praise the Secret Service. But there's also an acknowledgement that with this high of a threat level and now these 2 attempts, you heard President Biden come out and direct additional resources for Trump's protection and actually call on Congress to provide additional funding.
I think thank God, the president's okay. I think we got a full report so far. We're down there tonight. But one thing I want to make clear, the service needs more help. And I think the Congress should respond to their needs if they in fact need more services. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Are you saying they need more money? They need more personnel? They need more money? What kind of help do you think?
I think we need some more personnel. I think they're deciding whether they need more personnel or not.
And what would that look like? How quickly could that actually happen?
There's some amount of measures that they can take with the existing resources, but to significantly add personnel would require congressional appropriations.
And obviously, in the couple months since the first assassination attempt against Trump, there has been a lot of conversation about how the Secret Service can improve. There have been internal shakeups. The director of the Secret Service resigned. Is there a sense here that things have changed internally at the Secret Service that made this incident result differently than 2 months ago? Or is there a reflection of the Secret Service amping up how they are protecting Trump?
Well, it's a very different kind of setting. I mean, we can definitely see changes when Trump does rallies like the one in Pennsylvania. So for a time, he wasn't doing outdoor rallies. They've resumed doing outdoor rallies, but they now have bulletproof glass around him. You know, the golf course is a very different situation. You know, you don't have thousands and thousands of people going through airport-style security, but you do have some degree of public access. And the Secret Service has long viewed the golf course as a challenge for protecting Trump.
After the break, we'll talk more about the suspected gunman and his complicated background. We'll be right back. So, Isaac, I want to talk briefly about the suspected gunman. What do we know about him at this point?
His name is Ryan Wesley Ruth. He's 58 years old, originally from North Carolina, most recently living in Hawaii. And he has a criminal history, including a 2002 incident where he barricaded himself in a building with a machine gun after a traffic stop and ultimately pleaded guilty to several charges. Based on what he's written online and in a self-published book, he was very interested in the war in Ukraine. He was trying to join the fight against the Russian invasion or fundraise for it or recruit others. And he was trying to get attention for that. He was like tweeting his phone number at celebrities and doing interviews with reporters, including one we have from Newsweek Romania.
You know, every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us, you know, by our actions and what we do. And, you know, when I call back home and say, hey, I need $5 so I can, you know, put enough money together to get a vest for a Ukrainian, and I get no response, I'm like, I'm not sure that the world is as wonderful as I once thought it was.
It's just a really complicated history that he has. And this is a moment where we're trying to get some conclusions about why he is suspected of attempting to try to kill Trump, like what his motivations are, where he is politically. Like, is there anything that we can glean from some of these strange episodes from his past that give us a better sense of like who this guy is and why, like what he cared about that led him to show up at this golf course with a gun on Sunday?
Yeah, you know, these are clues. They're environmental context, but we don't have a manifesto. We don't have a confession. We don't have anything that directly answers to what led him to this specific act, allegedly, yet.
How has Trump responded to this possible attempt on his life?
Oh, the people who spoke with him yesterday reported that he was actually in a good mood. He was, kind of lighthearted about it, saying that he was disappointed he couldn't finish the round because he was having a really good game. Lindsey Graham actually went on Fox News to recount their conversation.
He called me and he said, hey, I'm surrounded by like 500 cops. They got a guy with an AK-47. He didn't know the real details, but shots were fired. He praised the Secret Service, but they had him taken off the course, and he said there's like 500 cops around. I said, are you okay? And he said, yeah. He said, I was 200 after 5. So he's quite a guy. That's all I can say, and I'm just very grateful that the worst didn't happen, and I'm pissed that this could happen again.
And obviously he was unharmed, in contrast to the last time. It was also true back in July that he was actually more restrained than some of his aides and other Republicans about how they were talking about the assassination attempt or who they were blaming for it right away. That changed over time with Trump, where he was becoming more inflammatory. And so he did an interview with Fox News that aired this morning in which he said that he was directly blaming what Harris and Biden say about Trump as the reason for this attempt. That's ahead of the available evidence that we have at this time. But it's exactly where he left off in how he had been talking about the previous attempt, again, with the absence of any evidence about the motive. Yeah.
I mean, talking about how Trump's rhetoric evolved in the last couple of months, we saw that even last week at the presidential debate where he basically said, Kamala Harris is why I got shot. You know, her rhetoric is responsible for this act of political violence.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump,
Russia investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get-
went nowhere.
And now we see him doing something similar. He gave an interview this morning with Fox News in which he was talking about this alleged gunman. And Trump said, quote, "He believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris, and he acted on it. ... Their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at when I am the one who is going to save the country, and they are the ones that are destroying the country, both from the inside and out," end quote. So you can see that he's already gotten to this point of using this as a political cudgel.
Well, and we have to emphasize that with the previous shooting, there's no evidence to support that. Again, there was no sign of any political or ideological connection. But Trump and J.D. Vance and other Republicans did start to talk about it that way anyway, that they would position it along with the impeachment and the prosecutions and a whole series of things that they blame on Trump's political opponents, whether or not they actually were. The danger of talking about it that way is the risk of inspiring some kind of tit for tat, not to mention that it's just not accurate. And, I think we're already seeing with the alleged gunman on Sunday, there's more information available. There's more to grab onto. It's going to become more politicized.
Is there a way that we're seeing this even now start to affect the presidential campaign, like logistically?
Well, it did after the first shooting, when there was that period where Trump wasn't doing outdoor rallies. We know he had a meeting with the acting Secret Service director today. He has some events planned this week, in person and virtual. So we'll start to get a sense of any impacts on the campaign calendar.
And I recall after the rally in Butler and the shooting there that there was a pause on political advertising. Are we expecting that to happen, which seems a little bit more complicated at this point in the campaign season?
Yeah, I haven't seen any indication of that, and part of that is just because it's September, it's go time. It's really the height of the campaign season. Another factor certainly is that Trump was not injured. After the Butler shooting, which was right before the RNC, you did see a small increase in Trump's favorability ratings. Hard to separate the convention bounce from the impact of the assassination attempt.
But that seems like a question here, and again, not wanting to get too far ahead of ourselves, but would that same bump for Trump come after this to say, this is a person who's under attack, and if you support him, this is a moment where your support really matters?
We'll have to see what the polling says. They've consistently seen a lot of money after the previous assassination attempt and the indictments and the trial, those kinds of news events. And they were actively fundraising the Trump campaign, sending messages about the Sunday incident as well.
Wow, they're already doing that. I think a lot of regular Americans who either saw the news last night, woke up this morning to see it, they have one very simple question is, why does this keep happening? I don't know if there's an answer for that, but I'm curious what you think.
Well, in the 60s and 70s, it was happening a lot. Completed assassinations of major political figures. And, there were 2 attempts on Gerald Ford. It's been a while. That's kind of a distant memory. Certainly we've become very accustomed to the frequency of mass shootings, school shootings. And we had another one of those in between these 2 assassination attempts.
And also becoming accustomed to attacks on politicians or threats against politicians. And I think it's worth pointing out that just a month ago, a man in Virginia was arrested for allegedly threatening to kill Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I'm one of the researchers I talked to for a story about how Trump was talking about the previous assassination attempt. We were talking about how common death threats became in the 2022 cycle. Basically everyone in public life, just a fact of being in public life was that you were going to get death threats. The danger that that crosses from threat to action in the first election since January 6th, and once violence, some kind of violence, already becomes a reality.
Isaac, thank you so much.
Thanks, Martine.
Isaac Arnsdorf is a political reporter for The Post. Before we go, we've got some other noteworthy news from over the weekend.
And the Emmy goes to Shogun.
FX's Shogun dominated the Emmys on Sunday night. The acclaimed historical epic set in Japan won Best Drama Series. It also won the prizes for Lead Drama Actress and Actor, which went to Anna Sawai and Hiroyuki Sanada. Sanada talked about his win in his acceptance speech.
And Shogun taught me that when people work together, we can make miracle. We can create a better future together. Thank you so much.
Overall, Shogun won 18 of its 25 nominations. That is a record for the most wins by a single season of television. I have not yet watched Shogun, but I do love a good period piece. So you can bet that this show is now at the top of my list. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. And if you want more Washington Post news in your ears every day, you should subscribe to The 7. It's our morning news podcast, where you can wake up to the 7 top stories that you need to know about before you head into your day. It's quick, it's insightful, it's urgent, but also breezy, and it's the perfect addition to your listening routine. Find The 7 wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's show was produced by Rennie Svirnovsky, with help from Bishop Sand and Lucy Perkins. It was mixed by Sean Carter and edited by Ariel Plotnick and Rena Flores. Thanks also to Sean Sullivan. I'm Martine Powers. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories from the Washington Post.